Hello guys, and welcome to another video about programming in C#. Today I'll talk about properties and how you can use them inside classes, and it will be an extension of the last video, classes part 1. I advise you to watch that one before you start watching this one. In our previous video I've created a calculator class, and we would like the option to set it on or set it off, or rather to enable or disable a calculator, like you have a physical calculator in which you can turn the power off or on. And one way of doing that, of course, is in the calculator class itself. You could say that you are making a public variable, say public enabled, in which you can alter the values in the object that is created, like calculator2, but rather you don't want the variable to you don't want that to be enabled to be usable outside of this class. Really, you want a property, and the best way of doing that is by creating prop tab, and Visual Studio automatically creates the layout of a property, and we can make a public Boolean. We can call it enabled. We can delete this one. And as you can see, it has a standard get and a standard set operation. Let me line it out for you like this. And what the first one does, the get does, is that it will look up a certain value and return it to the part of the code that is looking the value up. And I'll show you an example in a short minute. And the set operation will obviously set a value, set a given value to this property, or to a variable attached to this property. So we can state that we have a private Boolean enabled, and notice that it has a small letter at the start and this one has a capital letter, and we could say it has a default value of false, and say in our object we want to get that enabled value to check what the value is. So if the get operation is called, we can say that we want to return the value of enabled, and the small letter enabled. This will return the value which standard is false. And by the set operation we want the possibility to set a given value to this variable, and that's done by typing enabled is, and I have to type it correctly of course, enabled. Is a value like that. And what this keyword does, value, is that it will get the value that is typed elsewhere and try to assign it to this variable, which of course all have to be Boolean values. So you cannot use a string as this value here, or an integer. No, it has to be a Boolean, of course. And I can show you that in form 1, where we have the calculator 1 and calculator 2 instance of the calculator class. And for instance, say we want calculator 2 to be enabled, and we call the instance dot, and then we call the property which we've just created and which IntelliSense automatically sees, which is this one. And we can assign a value to it by typing is, and then the value we want, in this case true. And by doing that we are setting the private Boolean variable enabled to true through this property, like this. You can also see if we type a string here, it won't work, because, well, obviously it has to be a Boolean. Well, let's keep it true, and say we want to get the value of the enabled value of calculator 2. Let's say we want to check if the calculator is turned on before we start using calculations. Well, for an example, we can use an if statement to check whether it's true or not. And in this case, if the property enabled turns out to be true, then start doing this code, and if it's not, well, then we do something else. We can also assign a new variable and get a value from the property, like a Boolean this calculator status is calculator2 dot enables, which will get the enabled value and store it into this calculator status. And of course this can also be done with strings, integers, etc, etc, as long as all the types are the same, as long as this is a Boolean, this is a Boolean, and this is a Boolean, otherwise you'll get errors. I hope you can imagine that there are a lot of useful ways of using this, and not only to set a kind of switch for an on or off property of some object you have. There are a lot of examples you can make, and a lot of useful implementations of these properties. I hope you've learned something from my short video here, and I'll see you next time.